because I did start to feel depleted at this point, because it was like, hey God, my faith is kind of dwindling, because I know you told me I was going to be a rapper, but you know, life ain't looking like the rapper thing is going to work out. I literally have this like pink journal. One day I was like sad at my desk, and I literally wrote down like, okay, here are the 5 dreams that I want to happen. I want to drop an album. I want to be a full-time rapper. And then I put the date, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it to God. This is me showing like I'm not going to give up. Like a couple months later, when everything ended up working out, I was able to refer back to that journal and like, oh wow, I like really accomplished what I said I wanted to do.
Welcome back to another episode of Women of TmrO. If you are new here, thank you so much for stopping and clicking on this video. Women of TmrO is a platform dedicated to women positioning themselves for longevity. So if you like this video, if you like what you see here, don't forget to comment, like, share, and subscribe. Wande.
Hey.
Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, no problem.
I always see you on Instagram. You actually did some stuff with the TmrO app. We were super honored to have you, but you are just a super, like, you just have a light about you. Your energy is really positive.
Thanks.
And I want to know, like, I've read about you and all the things that you do. Tell me what it is that when someone asks you, what do you say?
Yeah, I would say at the core, I'm a Christian rapper.
Okay.
But then alongside of that, like, it's kind of like a life of ministry, I guess you could say. And so it's like I'm kind of navigating what does that look like for who I am as a person. But I think God has definitely called me to encourage people. So whether that's like through donating with whatever resources I have to like help other women, you know, be able to come up in the rap industry, I'll do that. Or whether it's like just speaking and encouraging people on the internet, or just like even just sharing things I learn. That's kind of like what I am. So basically a Christian rapper, but just also just a light with everything I do, and just, you know, loving people everywhere I go.
Yeah, it exudes. Like, how did you, because when I think about Christian rap, and I'm not super tapped in, but you just do it so seamlessly to the point where I'm like, this is fun. I can't really tell, like, it doesn't sound like Christian rap. It just sounds like music.
Yeah.
And did you grow up listening to Christian rap, or like what was the inspiration?
Yeah, so Christian rap actually ended up helping my faith in God, actually. So whenever I first decided like, hey, I kind of want to get more serious about God, I had like been like, let me switch up my music. So I looked up Christian remixes at first. That's how I even first found out Christian rap existed. And so from Christian remixes on YouTube, I was able to find like actual Christian rappers like Lecrae.
Yeah.
And from there, I like just found more. I wanted to go to one of their concerts. And then at that concert, there was like a speaker who ended up like sharing like the gospel of Jesus, and like, yeah, it changed my life. And then I was like, you know what, I want to devote my life to Jesus after that. And from then on, like, I was just really passionate about my faith. At that time, I didn't even know I wanted to be a rapper.
Yeah.
I was just passionate about my faith. And a couple of years later, because of a biology class, I found out that I could rap. And yeah, it just kind of started from there. I think Lecrae and them set great examples of like just being a rapper, but being explicit about your faith in it. And then just from there, like every generation is just kind of taking it to the next level.
Wow. Like, yeah, because I've only heard of Lecrae when it comes to Christian rap. Is there like a bunch of Christian rappers?
Oh yeah, there's a lot now. Like, I think TikTok has changed the game to where like now a lot of people are getting more shine, and it's kind of becoming more of an industry for real. But yeah, definitely Lecrae is like the forefront.
He's the forefront.
Yeah, but you know, we all just trying to, you know, level up and take it to wherever we can take it.
So you speak about God. So you did not grow up in a Christian or a religious household?
So it was very interesting.
Because you're Nigerian.
Yeah.
You were born in Nigeria.
Yeah.
And then you moved to Texas?
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was a baby, so I was a baby of the family, last to pull up. But yeah, so it was very interesting though, because it was half and half. So my dad's a Muslim, and kind of 90% of my family is Muslim, and then my mom was a Christian, and she actually ended up becoming a Christian because of her village that she grew up in. The only way she could get an education was going to a boarding school that happened to be a Christian boarding school. So that's how she ended up meeting God. But it's very interesting because it was split. Like, I didn't really kind of take faith seriously. I just kind of thought it was vibes. And so, so I was just kind of living life, honestly. And then, as I got older and I just got more intrigued into who God was, like, that's wherever I got deeper. And then I saw, like, how important it was to, like, have a relationship with God, because I just feel like it truly guides everything you do in life and like the decisions you make and everything.
What was the turning point? Like what happened that was like, there's something about God that I want to know more about?
See, that's an interesting question. I feel like kind of all of us, as we walk through life, there just comes a moment where you start having like different convictions and different things like that. So I would just say it was a slow process over time where God just kind of like was knocking on the door of my heart. But I think just finding someone who related to me is what made it more real for me. So at that camp, like the person who was preaching, like I think they had a similar testimony to me in terms of like, usually you hear testimonies of like, oh, you know, I was out in these streets, you know, but then you know, God just came and, but whatever. But I was like, okay, I can't really relate to that because, you know.
You haven't been in the streets.
Yeah. So it was cool like hearing from somebody who was saying like, you know, I kind of lived a normal life.
Yeah.
But I realized like, you know, it's not about being a good person. Like God wants to make you whole. It's not about being good or bad. It's like he wants to give you life. He wants to give you joy, give you peace. And I feel like I could relate through that because it was like, you know, life be hitting you, especially when you're in your like adolescence times and like you start realizing like you can't depend on people because people are wavering. You know, you can't live for the acceptance of people because if you're always trying to impress somebody, you're just going to be depressed because things are always changing. People's opinions are always changing. And so it was just really dope to me to see like, oh, God loves me as who I am. I don't got to change anything about who I am. I can have peace knowing like, hey, if everybody else in the world leaves me, me and God, we tapped in and we locked in. And so I think I just really like really vibed with that because seeing how God, like, he followed up with what he said. So, like, even him just sending his son to die for us. So it's like, hey, I'm really going to live this life. I really, for real, walked it out, lived the perfect life for y'all, actually gave my life even though I didn't do anything. And, you know, like, I truly believed all of that. And I truly believe Jesus is who he says he is. And, yeah, I just also seen the evidence in, like, how he's impacted my life so much. And, like, ever since that time, like, yeah, I've just had peace that surpasses all understanding. I've had joy. And so it's definitely sustained me just through every season of life.
And what is your like daily religious practice? Is it because I'm sure like you have to remind yourself throughout the days or the weeks, like what do you do to like recenter and refocus?
Yeah, it definitely evolves. I think actually recently I gotten into like a deeper relationship because I feel like I was kind of just waving, but then I was like, okay, God, I want to get more serious again. And so what it looks like now is like waking up and starting my mornings with him. So I actually went back to paper. I used to be a really digital person, but I was like, let me get back in my paper era. And so I bought a new Bible. I got a new Bible. It's called a She Reads Truth Bible. It's really fire. And then I got a journal. And so essentially I wake up in the morning and I just read like a chapter. And so from there, I just read the chapter. I journal like what I'm feeling, what I learned from that situation, highlight fire verses. I'm also really into YouTube and stuff like that. So like I follow different girls on there as well who like share their faith. And from there, I can learn different things like from their videos and get inspo of like what I want to start reading and stuff like that. So
kind of just centers you for your day.
Yeah. And so that's kind of like my routine. And then other than that, just praying throughout the day and just asking God just to like guide my steps as I go through my journey.
Yeah, like just having that one-on-one relationship where you can like actually talk to him. Because I was watching a live today and it was talking about prayer is really to teach us the art of communication and communicating with God. So it doesn't have to be you asking for something. It's just you touching base, reaching out and asking for support. You mentioned something earlier just a second ago about when you going through life and realizing that friends, you can't count on them.
Yeah. And
so you learned that pretty early in life.
Yeah.
How did you learn it? Like, what were you going through? Like,
I think I learned it in various stages. So this can go back to middle school to adulthood. So I would say what middle school Wande, what that looked like was like people being jealous because you're trying to, you know, find yourself and shine. So like in middle school, I was discovering things like, oh, I like dancing and stuff like that. And girls would be just like petty of like, oh, well, I like dancing. And that was my thing first. So you can't be a dancer. And it's like, this doesn't make any sense. So like in that era, that's like what that could look like on some like petty middle school stuff. As an adult, it can look like, you know, friends who you were, you know, thinking tight with. And then all of a sudden they just switch up and you're like, hey, yo, what's going on? And it's kind of navigating through that of like, what does that look like? Do I need to still keep them as a friend and work it out? Or is it time to let it go and then just learn that lesson? So I've definitely learned that lesson. I've lost some friends who were even in my wedding. And it's like,
wow.
It's like, this is kind of crazy. But Yeah, I think it's definitely something you have to learn, especially as women who were like in business and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's just so much, because as a business owner too, then it gets awkward because you may get really close with your business partners, and then if y'all know are no longer friends or no longer doing business with each other, it's kind of like, do I drop the friendship or do we just drop the business relationship? And so yeah, there's like a lot to navigate through.
There is so much to navigate, and it seems like you learned like pretty early on, like the dynamics of what was going on. Like, okay, this person's weird, this person's jealous, this person is just like not aligned with me. How did you have a support system that you were talking to, like family, or was it church members? Like, how did you like assess these situations? Or
yeah, I think it definitely evolved over time. I think when I first started my relationship with God, like I didn't really have that many people, so it really was me and God. So that was kind of like what was sustaining me through the whole time, journaling, different things like that. Eventually I found like a best friend like in my school years, and so her name was Claudia, and so she was super dope in terms of just encouraging me, really pivotal in my like development stages of like just becoming more of a confident person. So she was the definition of like a real friend of like, I know like in those years I was like, oh, I think I want to run for like homecoming queen, and that was like out of character for me. And so she was like, oh, you want to do it? Let's make it happen. And so I think that was really cool to see like a friend who was like not hating on you and being like, oh, well, you could never do something like that, but her first reaction was, oh, you want to do it? Let's figure out how to make it happen and let me support you. And so supportive. She was like a super dope friend who encouraged me in those seasons, and even now like in my like adult seasons. So like my management team, a lot of them were really close with each other, and so we'll have conversations navigating through that with like people who we may have to lose in business, but it's like, dang, like we were real close, but so we talk through those hard conversations of like integrity versus friendship versus what's forgivable versus what's forgivable but still do not associate anymore.
Like loving from a distance.
And so I think I definitely have some well-rounded people around me who were able just to talk through life and navigate. And then I think at the end of the day too, some of it just lies on you, because you just have to make a decision of what do you want to live with, what are you willing to accept as a person, what are you not willing to accept as a person. So yeah,
I'm so curious, what has been one of those, what would you say is a deal breaker in friendship or business? Like, is there something that you can specifically pinpoint was like, I just had to let it go?
I'm like, so one that specifically caused the issue was like demeaning other people in the workplace. So I had somebody who was on our team, loved her, she was great to me, but to everybody else who worked with her, like she just would demean them, make them feel like they're less than, like, hey, I'm running the show, all y'all are irrelevant. And it was kind of like, we can't operate like that. Like, even though I love you so much, like, if you're not willing to own up to that you're demeaning other people, belittling other people, like, that's not good, because that's not a safe work environment.
Not
and
at
like,
all.
especially when I stand for like Christianity and like knowing that people are loved, it's like that's not a great example of love. So I would say like that's a deal breaker, because like you could be like the best skilled person ever, but at the same time, if when people are coming to work, they're coming leaving less than, and like you're lowering like their sense of self every day, like it's like I can't work with that. So I would say like that's something like that's a deal breaker.
So you're a creative, and you're like the boss, and you're the business owner. What is that? How is it like balancing that? Like, do you rely a lot on your team?
It's definitely interesting, but definitely I'm team empower people to do what they do. Find people who are killing it in what they do and let them, walk in their lane. But I think so. I've been taking like the visionary approach this year. So it's kind of like I set the vision. I really work hard on like maintaining self, so that way I can always like be that visionary person. But definitely relying heavily on my team. I would say the best example of that is like in my road team for like touring stuff and like shows. So like I have a road manager, so I empower her to like, hey, the contracts got booked, so here, you take control, contacting the team, let us know what we need. Then I have a choreographer, I empower her, you do what you do, choreograph, I'll show up to practice. And then I also have an audio team, and so they help me build out like the tech behind the show, so I empower them, do what you do. They give me a brief tutorial, so that way I'll know for troubleshooting if anything ever goes wrong. But I've been empowering people to do what they do, so that way I can do what I do in terms of showing up to practice, learning how to perform the best I can do, showing up to the studio, writing the best songs as possible, and just also empowering my mind, so that way I can like give love everywhere I go. So
I love that. Yeah, because a loving work environment is so important. Like enjoying what you do every day versus just like waiting for the outcome.
Yeah.
So you have your own label, OMG.
OMG is Wande. Yeah, company. Yeah.
Okay. So take me through like how you started from, because weren't you were in nursing school?
Oh, so I was doing a nursing program situation.
A nursing program.
So my high school was really advanced. So, so they
you were
had
doing it in high school?
Yeah. So they had a partnership with like hospitals, and it was like a health science academy. And so basically you could do like an accelerated program to where by the time you graduated, you have a license to be a nurse aide. And then you'd also have partnerships with hospitals. So I did that. I ended up getting a license. I do have like a nurse aide license.
Did you like it?
Hated it.
And so, okay, so did you do that because I know that I saw a quote from you that there was like an internal struggle from coming from a Nigerian family, and it's not, creative careers are not really supported. It's like either you're a doctor or a lawyer, and I've heard that a lot.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Why is that?
I'm learning now as I'm an adult that like it's coming from a place of love. Like if you think about us, it's like, think about being 30 and then starting your life over. And so a lot of them, that's like what they did. They came to the United States starting all the way over, had to start degrees all the way over. Mm-hmm. So in their head, they're like, I don't want my kids to go through this, so I need them to do whatever is the easiest, that's the most secure. And in their head, if you're a doctor, you're going to be making good money. It's secure. Nobody can take your job away from you type stuff. If you're a lawyer, same stuff. So I think for them, it's just like, hey, this is viewed as prestigious in society.
Yeah.
And I also know if you do this, you'll always have a job. So I think that's why they've done it. And it's also just ingrained over and over. But you know, it's just kind of like, if God is calling you to do something else, you know, you just got to live your life. Yeah.
So do your parents, do your family support what you do?
Oh, yeah, they support 100%. I think at the time, I knew who they were, so I didn't tell them I wanted to be a rapper. I just kind of let my actions speak for itself.
Now they can't deny it. Yeah. They're like, she did it.
Yeah, and they're surprised. Even now, they're like, so how do you like actually make money? I'm like, it's fine. Yeah.
But you don't need to know the details.
Yeah.
So, but was that a challenge, like hiding it from your parents or hiding it from your family? Like,
I think
how did you do that?
Yeah, I think everybody just has to evaluate honestly based on what's for you. I know for me, for my mental health, if I was getting too much negativity, I probably wouldn't have made it to where I am today. So I was like, for my particular mental health, I need to not tell them. But I know how serious it is to me, so I just wrote it down in a journal. And then I was like, hey, I'm going to just keep making these songs, keep putting the songs out. At school, like, so at my college, basically, like, all the student orgs, like, they booked me out to, like, do their shows for their events. So they'd be like, hey, we have a student week. Come on, can you come rap for us? I'm like, yeah. Or different talent shows and stuff like that. So I was just like, hey, eventually, if I'm making money and whatever, like, they'll be fine.
What can they say?
Yeah, I think they're just more afraid of what other people have to say and not actually afraid of the actual thing. So that's why I was like, I'm just going to keep this to myself until it works out, and then we'll be fine.
Yeah, but that's really smart. And that's something that I think is, like, wise as well, because you cannot tell everybody, like, your dreams. Sometimes you really have to protect that, because once you start getting all these opposing thoughts and energies, then it can really, like you said, you might not have made it had you, like, told everyone what you were doing.
Yeah, big facts. Yeah, I definitely just agree that's it's really important, because like you were saying about protecting your dream, like, you really have to protect it, especially if you think it's serious, because, you know, something may be very serious to you, but it might not be as serious to other people. Yeah. I remember even whenever I was working at the label at the time, like via internship or whatever, like, people would be joking, but they didn't know like that how serious it was to me to be a rapper. But they'd be like, oh yeah, maybe one day like an intern will be a rapper, but that would never happen. Like casual lunch conversation. Yeah. But in my head, I was like, hey, this is not a joke to me. I'm actually about to be this rapper, bro. Like, and I actually did it, but it's crazy because you just never know. And so it's like, this is why I keep things to myself.
And so you just, when you would hear those things, you would just be like, whatever, they just don't know.
No, like, literally, I think, I don't think, I know. So some of those things actually did get to me over time. And I remember, because, like, as you're, like, kind of working the 9 to 5, like, eventually you just kind of get into that mindset of, like, this is what life is. But I remember because I did start to feel depleted, it got to the point where I was like, all I can do is write it down at this point, because it was like, hey, God, my faith is kind of dwindling, because I know you told me I was going to be a rapper, but, you know, life ain't looking like the rapper thing is going to work out. So I literally have this like pink journal where I remember one day I was like sad at my desk, and I literally wrote down like, okay, here are the 5 dreams that I want to happen. I was like, I want to drop an album. I want to be a full-time rapper, like, and other things like that. And so, or I was like, oh, I want to go on tour and stuff like that. And I wrote it in there, and I put the date, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to leave it to God. And this is me showing like, I'm not going to give up type stuff. And so, but it's really beautiful, because then like a couple months later, when everything ended up working out, I was able to refer back to that journal, and like I have like a gold star. And so I put the gold star on there of like, oh, wow, I like really accomplished like what I said I wanted to do. Yeah.
So there's a lot of power in just like writing it down.
Yeah.
Would you call that like your manifestation journal?
Yeah, to an extent, like just like walking by faith, you know, type stuff.
Not by sight.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So what were you started working for the label first as an intern?
Yeah.
What label were you?
It's called Reach Records.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's the label that you're signed to now?
Yeah, yeah.
So you just like, okay, I'm gonna get in there as an intern, and
Yeah,
then...
yeah. I had the plan from the beginning.
What was the plan?
So the plan was to get signed while I was an intern. That didn't happen, you know. I had to come back on staff. But yeah, the plan was I was gonna walk in there, you know, eventually. I just really had faith like that. So I was like, I'm gonna walk in there, you know, I'm gonna do my job, but they're gonna get to know who I am. They're gonna see the talent. They're gonna be like, oh yes, you're the one. And so, but yeah, that didn't happen during my internship. But at the same time, they really did like my work ethic as an intern. So like they liked my intelligence.
Yeah.
So I was able to get a call back to be like, hey, we want you to like be on staff like whenever you go back. But that's also why it became a very trying period, because I was working in the A&R department, and in that department, one of my assignments was, oh, we need to find a woman to sign. And I was
like, me.
No, literally, I was like, God, am I a joke? Like, what's going on? Like, so, yeah, it's crazy, because I was like, duh, me. But, yeah, but my supervisor, he knew I was a rapper. So it was kind of like, oh, this is awkward. And so, yeah, it was definitely an awkward situation. But, yeah, I think it really also shows how God can work on your behalf in spite of what you're going on, and, like, just kind of, like, on some do your best, let God do the rest type stuff. Because even in moments when I was scared, like, I would pray to God and be like, hey, God, I tried to speak up for myself, but I couldn't today.
Oh, wow.
Like, the next day, like, somebody, like, even the CEO, one time he walked up to me and he was like, hey, I just feel like God is telling me that he wants you to shoot your shot on this next album. So I want you to speak up for yourself in this next meeting tomorrow and say something. And yeah, and so like stuff like that, like God like working behind the scenes to even like put ideas in other people's head to like help advocate for me type stuff.
So you have like a really just like day-to-day ongoing conversation with God, like at any point in time, like you just gonna talk to him and be like, hold on, I just did this, tell me what's going on.
Oh
like,
yeah, big facts. Every day, all day.
I love that. What exactly were you doing at the label before you got signed?
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of paperwork stuff, so which actually worked out in my benefit, because then I started understanding the behind the scenes of how things work. So my main role was like splits, contracts, all that stuff. So making sure, all the splits of the songs were done properly, making sure people signed all the contracts for every song that got released from the label. And so that was super beneficial, because I didn't know anything about that at all. So God was actually helping me out of being like, hey, when you get signed, here's what standard paperwork looks like. And so it helped me know that. It helped me not, take people for granted, because I started seeing how much work that was too. So now whenever I have people doing that, I'm not just like, oh yeah, that's easy, just get it done.
Right.
I'm like, oh no, that kind of takes some hours.
It takes some hours, and you gotta like proofread and double check and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Wow. So how long were you working, like I guess as in administration?
Yeah. So it was 6 months. That felt like the longest 6 months of my life. But when I look back, I'm like, oh, that's not that
6
much time.
months.
Yeah.
And okay, so you mentioned something about work ethic.
Yeah.
Because I think so many people like don't understand work ethic. They want to be famous, they want to be popping, they want to be popular, they want to get to the money, but they don't realize how much work goes into actually like having that, meeting that success, and that, having that success. What would you say to those people, like, about work ethic? Yeah, I would say work ethic is very important, because it's almost a reflection of yourself, of how much do you respect other people's time, how much do you respect yourself. And so sometimes you may just be like, it doesn't matter, but you look back and it's like, oh, well,
if somebody else assigned this to you, like it was important. That's why they assigned it to you. And also with it being a reflection of yourself, it's like if you're not somebody who treats everything you do with excellence, it just kind of shows that you don't care. And so you can't get mad when things don't work out, or you can't get mad if someone doesn't want to recommend you for a future job, because it's like, oh, when I think of you, I think of someone who doesn't deliver. And so, you want to be somebody who, like, when they think of you, they're like, hey, no matter what, I can say that this person always delivered. They always had a joyful spirit when they were around. So that way, that's the best way to move around. Like, so even if you want to depart from a situation, at least depart in a good way to where people can recommend you for the next job type stuff.
That makes so much sense. I love that you said, like, it's a reflection of yourself. It's like, what you think about yourself, because it's so many times, me being in the creative space, hiring creatives, working with them on and off. Sometimes I'm just like, how come people do not care? How come people do the very bare minimum? And a lot of times people try to say that it's because, I'm not getting paid that much or blah, blah, blah. Anytime that I take on, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it the way I want people to think that I can do it. I'm not going to do it half-assed because the check is not big enough. I'm going to do it because at the end product, I want it to look like Kayla did it, versus doing it based on how much you paid me. No, I'm worth way more. Yeah. But if I say yes, then my yes means I'm going to give you my all.
Yeah.
And I also feel like it goes into like work ethic and self-discipline. I've heard the quote that self-discipline is like the highest act of self-love. So to me, it's like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I discipline myself enough, because that discipline comes into play if I have a goal that I'm wanting to reach. Me reaching that goal is important to me. So I'm going to act accordingly to what is going to help me reach that goal. And that requires discipline. It's not like the discipline of you're being disciplined, like you're getting like in trouble, but more so you are preparing yourself for the success that you want.
Yeah, and I definitely agree, because I think I've gone through that phase a lot with just my performances. It's like you'll look at someone like Beyonce, and you're like, I want to do that, but it's like you want to. Beyonce shows you in her documentaries, like, this is what I did. I practiced this hard. This is what I ate and stuff like that. And so I think sometimes to ourselves, like even me, it's like, okay, if I say I want to be this standard of performer, then hey, are you practicing? Are you on the treadmill? Are you eating healthy? Like, and it really does show like how much do you care, like, and love yourself. Because if you truly love yourself, you truly love your gift, and you say that you want to be faithful to this dream that you have, then are you willing to execute that discipline to show up to the gym? Are you willing to execute that discipline to maybe not drink soda today, drink water, stuff like that?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like, you're cheating yourself if you don't do that. What are okay, so you're a Christian rapper, and you told me like Lecrae was at the forefront when you started really getting into it. Who are your inspirations, or I guess references for stage performance?
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting topic as a Christian rapper, because everybody has different opinions based on people's personal life. But personal life aside, with just stage life, I would say Beyonce, top 10, number one.
Yeah.
Because I think like she just exudes excellence. So her vocal clarity, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Then her dancing, 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
And I think she just embodies like what it looks like to just show up for people and like not play around. Like, she don't be canceling shows.
Yeah.
Nah.
She's dedicated.
She does every show, and she does it on 10 every time. And I think she's a great example, especially because I started using dancers in my shows as well. And so I think it's beautiful, like, just giving people a full show and like really just stepping in the character whenever you pull up to perform. So
would you say your shows are just like high energy?
Oh yeah.
It's to match like your online energy.
Yeah.
Are you like the creative director behind your whole brand, or like, it seems so authentic?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, are you that person that
I mean, I guess, so I never thought about that, but so pretty much. So I sit back, and every year I kind of just refocus on like who I am, because sometimes you evolve. And so I just make sure like, okay, is this who I am? So let's go full force in that. And so I kind of set that. And so our vibe right now, we're like the Holy Girls, very vibrant. And so so it's lit. And so that's kind of like what you'll get from a show, like vibrancy, joy, life. I'm also tapping into, though, because I am very chill on like a personal level.
Okay.
So I've been like tapping more into having some chill moments in the shows for like singy songs. I kind of stayed away from those because, you know, I like autotune, and so I'm like, oh, I can't be embarrassing myself out there, but people are like, oh no, it sounds good, you should do this more. So I've been tapping more into like making sure I include like a chill moment on the sets as well.
So, but you can put autotune in your audio, right?
Oh yeah, like, yeah. So we figured it out, and now it's lit. Yeah.
Now you're good.
Yeah.
So when it comes to your label, how did you establish it? Like, I know it's like it's a thing now for people to have their own label. Are you signed to your label and then signed to Reach? Or
so right now I'm still with Reach, but essentially outside of that, like in terms of just like creativeness, like I do creative direct like everything I do, and then like I would say it's more of like just my company in general. So like OMG is Wande just kind of embodies the overall brand of like everything we do outside of music for now, like such as like influencer marketing, the shows. Yeah, all that stuff. So
you have the influencer marketing, because I'm like, you're like a social media person too. Yeah. Like, did that come like simultaneously with the music career, or which one was first?
Yeah, it basically kind of came with the music career. It was kind of on accident, I would say, like, because I kind of started building everything. I've always been on social media, but 2018, 2019, it's like whenever like my career like actually became a career, and that's kind of whenever that actually even became a job, like social media influencing. It really wasn't a thing before then anyway. So I would say it just kind of came simultaneously. Like I just liked posting and being on the internet, and then it was like, oh, you can get paid for this. It's great.
So did people start reaching out, or did your management start saying, oh, we need to get you these opportunities?
It's both. So I think people started reaching out. It started with like t-shirt brands. Like be like, hey, like, so it started with like free stuff. Like, hey, you want a shirt? I'll be like, heck yeah, I want a shirt. And then it just kind of evolved into like, once you kind of start knowing your worth of like, oh, I'm actually getting these people a lot of sales, being able to be like, okay, like here's our rates, even with features, like, so now it's like, oh, here's my rate for a feature because I know you're gonna get this amount of streams, so you'll get your money back type stuff. So yeah,
being Christian rapper, what are some of the standards or the principles that you like? Because I feel like sometimes, like, say, Women of Tomorrow, we have like, okay, these are the core things that we will not budge on. Like, as sponsors, I won't have an alcohol sponsor. Like, I need it to be like a wellness drink. Do you have certain, like, a list of principles or standards that you're like, okay, I know I'm out here in this entertainment world, we're performing, but these are the things that I will not like budge on? Yeah.
So I think for me, attire is one of those things. So like I try to be like decently conservative with like how I dress. So like, I mean, which is very hard as a female rapper because like the standard is like a leotard. Yeah. And so I still do leotards, but I wear pants. And so I would say like that's one thing I don't budge on in terms of like just being modest.
And what does that mean to you? Like being modest, like what does that like mean to you in your heart?
I think to me it means like the way I'm dressing is not to intentionally be provocative. I think that's how I would say being modest is. So I think if your intention behind it is like I'm just dressing for me, then you're straight. I think if you're dressing and you know like, oh, I'm wearing this specifically to get this person's attention, then that's whenever it turns into like something else. So
you don't want to bring that kind of attention.
Yeah. And I think it's kind of like it's deeper because there's certain settings. So like there's certain clothes I'll wear to Pilates class that I won't wear outside of Pilates class.
Got it.
So I think it's like it's fluid too because it's like, oh, in Florida I can pull up in shorts or whatever, it doesn't matter, or on the beach I can wear this, but I just won't wear that to like Walmart, or I won't wear that on stage.
Right.
So I think it's just like, I think just being aware of settings and like what's appropriate for each setting. I think that's kind of like how I navigate modesty and stuff like that.
And do you have people, I mean, that try to like provoke you or change your mind or say, you know, you're a woman now, or like?
I think it's the opposite. I feel like I be doing the most in terms of being modest. Like I'm on the extreme edge of like not to have any problems, but then I have people who are like still I'm wearing a turtleneck, people are still like, oh, she's not modest. I'm wearing baggy pants.
Is it because you're fly? Like sometimes people think you gotta be like,
I think that's
not
what it
fly.
is. Yeah. So people are just like, yeah, there's people who are hating in the comments like, this is not Christian. There's no way this could be Christian. She's not. But it's like, you know what? You can't please everybody. So
You really can't.
I'm gonna live my life.
Yeah. Have you found that, just being in the church and being Christian, that there's just as much like hypocrisy and judgment in that crowd, in just as like in the other world, like secular?
Yeah, pretty much. So it's kind of like at the end of the day, you really just have to do you, and just kind of keep it between you and God. I think we all have our own personal convictions. So if God told me not to wear something and I wore it, that's on me. And if people call me out for that, that's on me. But I think if God was like, hey, that's cool to wear it, and people are hating, then it's like I can be secure in myself and know like, hey, this is me, and God was cool
God
with
approved.
It. Yeah.
What other standard would you say is a big important one for you?
Yeah, I think just not doing things that kind of just misalign with Christianity. So like, I probably wouldn't do like, I don't know. I probably wouldn't do any smoking brands, stuff like that. I probably wouldn't do. I mean, there's not that many things, but just I wouldn't do anything that just endorses sin, basically. So,
got it.
But as long as it doesn't endorse like sinful things, then I'm pretty much chilling. So yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, because I know that's just a struggle, but coming in with just like a strong foundation, you seem like you built yourself up. You built your relationship up with God, so you always have that sounding board. You don't have to really depend on other people's opinions and thoughts.
Yeah.
And then you have your team. How did you build your team? Because teams are so hard to build.
Yeah.
And you speak highly of your team. Did you meet them through your work at the label, or how did they come together? How many people are on your team?
So I have about, like 4 core members.
Okay.
And so it's like, I have 2 managers who are like my super core.
Okay.
And then it gets wider when we talk about like the performance team.
Got it.
And so, but that's still like a core because we're like performing all the time. So essentially that's how it happened. But it's actually crazy because when I look back, we actually met on very casual vibes. So like my manager, I had a different manager at the time who was very disrespectful, and I had to let her go.
Wow.
And so it was really interesting because my current manager, we met on just like some like, she was just being a good friend and being like, okay, well, let me help you in this in-between period while you don't have a manager. Because she's like, you definitely shouldn't be with the label without having a manager.
Yeah.
So she was just a supportive person at that time, just helping me out. We knew each other a little bit before just because I helped her throw some shows like in the past when I was in college and stuff like that. And so over time we just developed where it just made sense. We got each other mentally.
And you started to feel like you could trust her.
Yeah. And she's assertive, what you need in the music industry. So so she's just a real one. So that's how my first manager came about. Her name is Erin. And then Nage, we actually met like on the internet and on some friend vibes. Yeah, like we like went to like Hobby Lobby, like very friend vibes and just very chill. And she first started off as my assistant, so she would just help me with like different fashion things, just whatever I needed help with, like on set for music videos and stuff like that. And over time, it was like, dang, Nate, like you on top of it, and like you real cool, we like you. And so my manager Aaron was watching out, of like, Wande, you can't just be meeting up with people from the internet. But I was like, no, she cool. And so, but yeah, we all like just ended up loving Nate so much, and so then she became like my day-to-day manager. And so that's kind of like how that developed. And then I have another one who's choreographer, Deja. We kind of met just through me shooting my videos and like learning how to be an artist over time. And so through that, I met her, and she was an amazing dancer, and she actually kind of stepped out on faith for herself and started her own dancing agency. And so just by her being like who she needed to be and taking leadership in that role, creating that, booking her own dancers under her, it was like, oh, this makes perfect sense for us to partner for shows, because then she's always on it. She has people who she can just pull from the roster to pull up to a show. And so that's kind of like how that link up happened. So, and then I have my DJs and everything. So
your core team is women.
Yeah, which is crazy. It's beautiful.
I love that. And so has it been challenging in the sense of, you called her you said partnering with them. So do you look at it as, oh, they work for me, or we work together?
I think definitely work together. So I think they support the vision. So I think everybody who's tapped in is like, hey, I believe in this vision. But I think we're all partners because everybody got their own thing going on.
Yeah, everyone is solid and strong in what they do.
Yeah.
And you guys just come together and make it happen. I love that. I love an all-women team. I just saw a music video on Thursday, and it was just a woman team. Like we had men who were, you know, cameramen, DP, that kind of thing, but it was just all women. It was the director, and then the producer, and the, what do they call it, video commissioner.
Yeah,
it was all women, and I was just like, wow, this is
it's like,
I love that for us. It says on your in your bio that you are also an actress. Mm-hmm. What acting are you doing? So
I did a role last year for this film. It's like an independent film called Stanton. So that was really cool. Just doing that. They flew me out to, like, I can't remember what state it was, but it was a different state. I was out there for like maybe a week.
And you filmed it all in the week?
Yeah. So I just did all my parts out there. But yeah, it was really dope. It was definitely different. I think that was a new level of discipline because you have to memorize.
Yeah.
So you have to not just memorize, but you have to memorize it so you can, like, act it out.
Yeah. You have to still be in character. Yeah. Like, not just memorize the lines. You got to memorize it like the character.
Yeah. So I definitely looked up on YouTube, like, different, like, techniques. So, like, I learned about, like, you can listen to it and then you say it 5 times. And then after you say it 5 times, you'll, like, know it. And it was true. But it was hours because, like, scripts like that. So, like, literally I was like, hey, y'all, I'm off commission. So I have respect for actors because I'm like, I don't know how you can have a personal life because that's a lot of reading, like,
and dedication. Like, I know so many actors that talk about they, like, get into the role, get into the character, and they sometimes can't get out of the character, like, once they're finished. Did you really want to be an actress, or someone just said, hey, you would be good for this role, and you were
someone hit me up, and so I was like, yeah, this is outside of my comfort zone, let me try it. So it was just something new that I wanted to try out. So I think it was a lot of fun, and I definitely want to, like, get more into that.
You would do it again?
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's synonymous. Like, do you feel like you are, when you're on stage, you're a character? Like, you know how they say Beyonce and Sasha Fierce?
Yeah, I guess low key, because even people who work with me, they're like, I don't know who this is when you
get on stage.
Yeah,
it's
so,
totally
like,
different person.
Yeah, so I'm a very, like, super bowl person when I'm performing. So yeah, I guess you could say it's like a character because, like, whenever you meet me off stage, I'm very calm, very chill. But then on stage, it's like, all right, it's time to turn up. So,
so you walked in today, you're like, hey, what's up? And now you're a performer.
Yeah,
you go crazy. So what's next? Like, what's next for you? What's coming up for Wande?
Yeah, so I think my next thing I'm excited for is, like, a touring season. So next year I definitely want to put on, like, a tour across the U.S. And so with that, you know, you got to get the music right. So I'm excited to also drop a project. So I'm working on new music to drop before then, hit first quarter to have a new project come out, and then hit a tour for the people. So that's what I'm excited about.
That's so exciting. You're already recording the project now, and you think you'll be finished by the end of the year?
I'm praying.
What's the percentage of how far you're through it?
You know,
because I know artists, they just never stop. They just keep recording, keep recording.
It's kind of hard to tell because it just depends on, like, what ends up being on it. So, but I have different ideas kind of already recorded, and I would say, like, a lot of it has to do with, like, where I am in life right now. So, like, I'm really, like, talking through, like, different life lessons. It's almost on some, like, SZA SOS type stuff.
Oh, nice.
But, like, you know, also, you know, redemption at the end of it. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be really interesting, and I think it'll be different for, like, Christian music because I feel like a lot of people don't talk about, like, life issues. But I feel like God is, like, calling me to, like, at every emotional stage I've been going through, like, hey, write this down and, like, let's make a song out of it. So yeah.
Do you let people in your sessions, or are they all, like, private?
Yeah, it's definitely private. Yeah, I try to let people in, but it's just I'm just like I
sacred space.
Yeah, it's like, and I get kind of shy, like, because it's like kind of like how we just talked about. It's performing. Like, it takes a lot to, like, you know, do that. So it's like, okay, I have to, like, trust you type stuff. So I do, though, have, like, specific days for features. So I'll have specific days. I try to do, like, once a week where I'll have a homie pull up, though. And it's like, I'm mentally prepared. Like, this is a feature. I let them do their thing and then I do it. But whenever it's, like, an emotional song, it's like, nah.
I love it. I just listening to you, just, like, seeing how you have, like, built your business, built yourself, and I'm so excited for you in the future, for real. For OMG, it's Wande. Are you turning that into an official label? Are you going to sign other artists, or what are you thinking about that?
Maybe in the future. I think I'm really passionate about women, and so I wanted to get my nonprofit bag this upcoming year and just like donate to women to like help them out. So I think that'll be phase one of just like donating. My goal is to donate laptops because I found out a lot of women don't have laptops.
Yeah.
Like a lot of the female rappers I would meet, they'd be like, yeah, one day, like, I want to drop more music, but the reason is because I don't got a computer. So I pull up to sessions, I pay like $45. It don't really work out in that $45. So then I got to go back home and figure out and then pay again.
45 minutes?
So you pay like $45 an hour for like to record type stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you said 45 minutes. I'm like, can't nothing get done in 45 minutes?
But then, so when it's like that, sometimes if you don't got money, it's like, okay, you're going to have 2 hours to get this done.
Yeah.
And maybe also you have to make sure you vibe with that person. How I talked about, I have private sessions. So it's like, it's just so much that I notice as a woman, because you might feel uncomfortable with whoever your engineer is, or uncomfortable with the information. Like, you don't know how to communicate, like, oh, add reverb to my voice. Like, you might not know what that is.
Don't know.
That's where having a computer, like, plays a lot, because then it gives you time to learn yourself. So that way, when you're in public recording the final version,
you can just knock it out.
Yeah.
Wow, now that is an important thing, because I know so often I'm like, when I go in the Apple store, I see people look like they're using the Apple computers to do some work really quick, and it's just like, dang, they don't have a computer. So that's awesome. So is the foundation is under the same name? OMG is Wande.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's next year.
Yeah.
We're gonna put that out.
Stay tuned.
So before we get out of here, just tell us, the audience, the subscribers, what's where they can find you, what's next, or anything that you want to share as a closeout. You can look right there.
Yo, what's up, y'all? It's your girl Wande. So you can find me online at OMG It's Wande. That's OMG ITSWANDE, or on all streaming platforms at just Wande WANDE. And yeah, stay tuned for some new music. Make sure you stream me on all platforms, and much love.